cell phones are ideal for camp situations and environments. I walked up to an official at a school this summer, and I just told him, I said, you're over here center, and the ball's over between lead and trail, and you're watching the ball everywhere it goes over there. I said, you're ball watching. It's one thing to have ball awareness, but you can't ball watch. He goes, I'm not ball watching. Well, the first thing I did is I walked away, got my phone out, and videoed him. And after he came off the court, I said, come over here, let me show you this. This is what you just told me you're not doing. What do you think you're doing? He's seen that, and he goes, damn, I guess I am ball watching.
Just
those
like
cell phones are sneaky, boys. I'm telling you.
Or just, it reminds me for those who ever played sports or basketball or what have you, coaches used to have an old saying that tape don't lie. So same thing for officials. When you're being recorded, tape doesn't lie. So whatever you put in front of it, that's what it's going to give back to you. So
that big eye in the sky, do not lie.
Absolutely. Good evening, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. We are going to go ahead and get started. Just real quick, if you've been enjoying the training in the chat, just let us know what you've gotten out of the chat. I mean, out of the trainings that we've had so far. Our first presentation was with Jeff Rutledge talking about status. Last week we had TJ Halliday from IAABO talking about enhancing communication. And I sent the email with the links to both videos that posted on YouTube, so you can go back and review those and study them. One of the little tips I would like to encourage everybody to do is not just watch videos, but study them. Okay, break them down, slow motion, rewind, fast forward, understand the positioning. I know a lot of you all are new, but I want you to start getting this mindset of not just watching videos, but being able to study them. So like, if anything, if you were in school and you were studying, you just don't read something necessarily one time. And so maybe you do, maybe you get it at the first go around, but sometimes you got to go back over it several times so that they can really register in your mind. So that way, when it's time to, use that information again, you know what it's supposed to be and how to do it. So again, just a little tip to the wise that, whenever you watch video, I don't care what game it is, what clip it is, what type of play it is or situation, study it, break it down. So for example, myself, what I like to do when I watch videos, I'm gonna watch for the trail position, I'm gonna watch the lead position, I'm gonna watch the center position. If it's a 3-person crew, if it's a 2-person crew, I'm watching trail and lead. But I'm also breaking down, what did each person do in that situation? Did they make a position adjustment at the right moment to get the best angle to see the right call, or no call, if it's a no call play? Those are just little things that you can do to add to your repertoire so that can enhance your way of understanding how to officiate the game at a higher level. And a lot of the stuff that myself, Jeff, Gary, Tracy, that we share with you guys, we didn't make a lot of this stuff up. A lot of this stuff is we've been going at camps, college camps, high school camps, talking to some of the NBA referees, WNBA referees, and they're sharing a lot of these different nuggets with us. So we take this information, put it all together, and we pass it on to you guys so they can help you be successful officials. So, but yeah, if you guys have been enjoying the training so far, just let us know in the chat. You can, put it in the chat what you've enjoyed and what you like most about the training so far. What you've gotten out of it. Hopefully you've heard some things, or as we like to call them, nuggets. Hopefully you've gotten some nuggets that can enhance your officiating skills and knowledge as well. So definitely thank you guys for participating, and we hope that we can continue to grow this thing and take it to the next level. So real quick, Gary, if you want to just kind of say a few words before we get started with our presenters.
Okay, sure. I'm assuming that we have some return visitors from the first 2 weeks of our presentations to everyone. And I think Clarence or Jeff, I think you just replied back to how many people we had signed up. I sent something for tonight. It was 154. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's outstanding. That is absolutely outstanding. and it's a good target area for years of experience 1 through 5. If you don't learn anything with these presentations, it's not Gary, Jeff, or Clarence's fault. It's your fault. I hope each and every one of you have a notepad in front of you with pen and paper to take notes as we go along. And last week we had more than just a few officials run out of ink. Their pens went dry and their paper pads went empty. We gave out a lot of information last week, and I think a lot of people took advantage of it. I certainly hope so. So what we are trying to do is get everyone doing things the right way. It's not Jeff, Gary, or Clarence's way. It's the right way. And we're passing that information to you. Where did we get that information from? We've spent thousands of dollars and many, many years going to college camps and so forth, learning from some of the best, learning from some people that have been places where we haven't been, learning things from people that have accomplished things that we have not accomplished yet, and we've passed it along to you folks. So again, hopefully you're taking advantage of it, and you are learning a lot from what we're sharing with you. So my concentration kind of broke off. Can you hear the banging outside my window?
No, I can't.
I got a little construction work going on, replacing some vinyl siding with hail damage, and it's noisier than hell right now. So
okay.
So
hope they get that done.
Anyway, I'll pass it back to you, Clarence.
Great, Gary. Thank you so much. Appreciate having you on the call with us. It's just truly a blessing and opportunity to have you here to help witness some of our younger officials get started on the right track. And that's the goal. Like Gary said, we want to make sure that we get you all the proper information so that you can be successful when you get out on that floor as a basketball official. All right. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started with our presenter for this evening. Again, Jeff Rutledge is our presenter, who's IHSA certified state clinician, 3-time state finals official, IHSA state finals official in basketball, also a college official with the NCAA. And Jeff has a wealth of knowledge. So right now I want to turn it over to Jeff Rutledge.
Okay. Welcome everybody. We're going to get right into it. This is going to be a video heavy presentation. Can everybody see my screen?
Not yet.
I got you, Jeff.
Yes. Okay. Let me see if I can.
Yeah, I see it now.
Okay, you see it?
Yep, I see it.
Okay. All right. So this is just basically going to be a bunch of video review. I'm breaking these down in about 5 sections. There's so much more I could show, but I tried to pick out some videos that would spark a little bit of discussion. This is going to be somewhat interactive, and I say somewhat because if you have any questions, please put this in the chat, and I will stop and try to answer as many of those questions, especially in each section. But we're going to cover some things. Let me kind of start with this. I think one of the best things once you start officiating is if you can get into video, do that as soon as possible. And now almost every game is video, and at every level. And matter of fact, high schools have made it real easy because now they have what they call the huddle cams in a lot of schools, and they literally just show their games and videotape or capture their games in their gyms, and sometimes multiple gyms. So this is something you can get access to. I am kind of a huddle administrator, really out of one association. But if, we could talk about that later. If you guys have video that you want a request from, if you send me a request, and I'll tell you how to do that later on, especially before the season, I can probably get or request the video from you and have it sent to you. and even have it downloaded or something like that. So there's ways for us to get video, especially with high schools. The lower levels sometimes might have a different system, but Huddle is probably the most common that's used in, especially Illinois High School Association and actually across the country. This primarily was created for football, but basketball's coming around, and now almost and there's also games on YouTube and sometimes they put them on their own site. So try to get video as much as you can. Most of these videos that I'm showing are a lot of my games or my situations over the years, and also some college videos. And the reason I'm just before I start, the reason I have college videos because sometimes the college videos are better. They have multiple angles, they have multiple situations. Just apply what we do as high school officials to what you see, because the game of basketball is basically the same across the board. Even at the NBA level, it's across the board. There's just some rules differences here or there. Like the NBA has a different travel rule. People think they don't call traveling. They actually do, but they have a different rule. But the NCAA, both men's and women's, are now very much similar to, or they've been similar to the National Federation level. And things that happen can apply to us. Maybe it's a different terminology or different mechanic, or maybe something slightly different. But what happens in the game happens in the game. Live ball, dead ball, technical fouls, fights, intentional fouls, flagrant fouls, all that stuff happens in our game just like it happens in theirs. And a lot of times kids see stuff that's on television and then that's what they go by. So we got to know our rules, and video review will help. Now, I kind of talked on this a little bit before we get into this. I talk about the three-legged stool. You'll probably hear me talk about this a lot. I believe to be a good official, you have to have these three things kind of in conjunction with each other. First off, you got to have rules knowledge. So everything that I'm going to talk about is going to have some basis of a rule of it. You got to know your rules backward and forward. It's the one profession as officials that we got to be perfect on rules from day one and get more perfect as we go through our career. There's literally, they think we should know everything day one. You're not, but that's the challenge, is try to get as good on rules, because most situations are going to be regular. There's going to be some unusual situations, and that's kind of the reason I'm showing it. Number two is your mechanics and your signals. You got to know your mechanics and your signals, because we're communicating to everyone, including our partners, including the players, the fans. Believe it or not, the fans are watching us too. So if we do something that's confusing and they're confused, what if the players and the coaches are confused? We don't want to have, or the media people, or the table people. So we got to have those in order and know where we're standing, also to make good calls. And then finally is philosophy. I know, but when I say philosophy, I'm not necessarily talking about just personal philosophy. There are philosophies that are not personal. Like the Illinois High School Association has philosophies on how they want us to handle certain things. The NCAA has ways that they want them to handle things. The NBA has ways that they want them to handle things. You might work in a conference that wants you to handle it a certain way because that's what that conference assigner or supervisor wants. So philosophy is not always personal. A lot of times it isn't personal. It's, I know if I work a certain league, especially at college level, I have assigners that do not tolerate certain behaviors. You'll see that if those behaviors show themselves, they want you to address it. If you don't address it, you won't work. And that works at all levels. So, and that works at the IHSA level, because if you don't do certain things that they ask you to do, we might not work postseason games. So you might not work other conferences and other opportunities in as you move up through the ranks. So keep those things in mind. So let's kind of get into it. We're going to start with jump ball. And the reason being is because recently, at least in the Illinois High School Association, we had a couple weird situations that happened. But these situations happen every now and then. They don't happen every game, but we got to know our jump ball rules. So first and foremost, I just want to go through a little bit of basics with this first play. It's not really showing a rule or anything, but the one thing we got to make sure when we start a game, we got to make sure the teams are going in the proper direction. Remember, they go the opposite direction to start the game of their bench. So they shoot at the basket opposite. That's the rule. They don't get to choose whether they want to go one way or the other. If they're the bench, whatever bench they choose, that's their choice. Then they go opposite. during overtime or extra periods, if we have a jump ball, which we most of the time will, then they go towards their bench because the second half it's an extension of the second half. So one of the things I want to also tell my younger officials who don't know this, does anybody know what do we do with our whistle if we're the jump ball official? And you can put it in the chat and Clarence look
Do
it
we
over.
blow it?
Well, you might to start, but after I blow my whistle, they're ready to go. What do I do with my whistle as the jumping official?
I can't get to my chat quick enough. I'm just going to tell you. So you're going to drop the whistle out of your mouth, so that accidents like
Get it,
knocking your teeth out.
get it out of your mouth. And the reason I'm saying this, guys, is because this is what a lot of officials that don't know any better, but I'm telling you this now because I want to save you some dental records or some dental stuff. You do not want the whistle in your mouth when you're tossing the ball because you are going to get hit, kicked, slapped, knocked upside the head eventually at some point in your career. You do this long enough, you're going to get hit slightly, kind of. And if your whistle's in your mouth and you're clenching on that whistle, guess what's going to happen? Your teeth are going to go with it. And if you want some dental work, go ahead and keep it in your mouth, but get it out your mouth. And part of the reason is because you're not able to, at least on the spot, call certain things. So let me just show this one. Not a big deal, but then when we jump the ball up, and this is 2-person or 3-person, we wait for the players to clear, and then we go to our spot. And this is obviously a 3-person game. So we just toss the ball up. We stay where we are. Don't be in a hurry to get out of the way. Wait till everybody kind of clears. Then go to your natural spot. Now, that's easy enough. You might say, why is that a problem? Well, let's watch this as well. Again, your technique for tossing the ball up can be different depending on who you are. It's really personal how you do it, if you do it with 2 hands or 1. But wait for everybody to clear and then get into position. Don't be in a hurry. The other officials get to your spot once we know and we've declared the direction. Now, one of the things that we do, and then we will talk about this extensively, but one of the things that we do as administrative, the referee of the game, who's basically the crew chief in many ways, has to check some things, the book. Have to make sure that everybody's in the book, or not in everybody's in the book, but stuff is submitted before the 10-minute mark. Make sure that we have a pregame with our table, the score. Now we might have shot clock too, depending on your level, and just so we're clear, there's a conference in the state of Illinois that is going to go to shot clock for JV level for all their conference games. And so if you happen to be working it, so you might think, well, I have to worry about that for another year. Well, there are going to be at least one conference I know that's going to do it for all their JV games. And every school right now could do it if they wanted to. It might be a game to day-to-day situation and you may not know, and they may spring it on you. So you might have to have a conversation with the shot clock operator, the clock operator, which are supposed to be 2 different people, the table, the score, to make sure that they're looking at you before you report fouls and they're not writing stuff down, assuming stuff. And one of the things we were supposed to do is check the basketball. Well, obviously, if you're going to work high school games, I'm going to assume most of you are going to work, at least starting out, are going to work girls and basketball games. They play with 2 different separate basketballs. So here's something that might highlight this. Now, you see off in the corner, myself and my partner are looking like, wait a minute, something's not right here. So, because the ball felt different. So in a boys game, the basketball is actually bigger. I believe, help me out, Clarence, it's 29.5 diameter. Is that correct?
Yes. Girls is 20.
Okay. And the
20
girls basketball is like 28.
28.5.
28.5. So it's a difference, but it might not feel different if you're not aware of this. So you got to make sure we have the right basketball. Now, the due diligence that was done in this particular situation, the ball was checked, but they changed it right before we went out. They literally, somebody moved the ball that they had at the table and they changed it and put the women's ball. Now, at small college, we work a lot of back-to-back men's college game, women's college game, one after the other. But this happens in high school too, because they may play a JV game or a varsity girls basketball game and a boys basketball game. The balls have to be different. The reason I'm mentioning this, because this happened at least twice in some years in Division I level at the men's side, where they played with the women's ball for almost 8-9 minutes. And then there was a women's college game, I believe Duke was involved, and they played a whole half with the wrong basketball. And you might say, why does all that matter? Because the feel of the basketball is different for those players. So we got to make sure that is taken care of. So when this was noticed, it was corrected. But it's, again, just a little thing that was kind of funny. Nobody knew at the time, at least initially, what it was. But then also when we have a jump ball, be ready to rule on stuff. Because we have a situation where the ball goes out of bounds. Can everybody see that? Because the ball goes out of bounds. This also starts the alternating possession. So if there's no possession and there's an out of bounds violation, and whoever gets the ball, the alternating possession starts when we hand the ball to the thrower or the new thrower. Okay? Any questions about that? Okay. Pretty simple stuff. Well, I'm going to confuse you even more. Okay. Does anybody know, and this is kind of, I want to hear some answers. Does anybody know when we start the clock on a jump ball? Honest answers.
As soon as it's tipped.
When it's tipped by who?
Either player. When the ball's in play to possession, tipped to possession, I would assume.
So when exactly do we start it? That's what I'm asking. When it's legally touched. So, and I want everybody to understand what that means. That means when the jumpers tap the ball, the clock has to start.
Right.
So if there's time that comes off, possession does not start the jump ball, the legal tip of the ball. So look at our U1 and a 3-person, but this could be the U1 and a 2-person, even though they would be more in the middle. So when are they starting the clock?
Soon as the girl touches it. Now,
Soon as one of the jumpers touches the ball, the clock has to start. But if you notice, he doesn't start the clock when that happens. He waits until there's either possession or maybe some kind of touch, which you might say is not that big of a deal, but it can be seconds and it is a big deal. And especially now with our shot clock. Can everybody see me? Okay. Especially now with the shot clock, this is really vital. And again, don't assume that you're not going to have shot clock games. You could easily have shot clock games where this could happen. So the official did not start the clock in this situation properly. They have to start it when the ball is tipped. Okay. We'll go on to some other situations. So another thing about jump ball, and I'll just make this easy for everybody. The jump ball, the restrictions begin when we're getting ready to toss the ball. The restrictions end when a few things happen. It either has to touch the floor, a non-jumper, the referee, meaning the referee in the middle or one of the referees. And they used to put in the rule a long time ago, which I believe has been really taken out. It used to be if they hit the rim or the backboard. Well, we're not going to probably ever hit the rim or the backboard because the rim or the backboard is now, we're not doing jump balls in the free throw circle. So these are when this is in. So can anybody tell me, and please put this in the chat, what is wrong with this picture?
So glad you're on the Medical Chess Network. Let's do it. How Olger is going to throw it up. Better official. He said to me two things.
They weren't lined up they weren't lined up properly to start.
Now that's a nightmare. Explain that. Okay, so he's moving to the 28-foot. That's new this year, by the way. All violations,
Yeah, in the chat, we got a couple of responses. Jumped on the wrong side, double touching. Jumper was the first to touch the ball. Jumper touched the ball after tipped. The ref was on the wrong side. Ref wasn't between the jumpers. Jumper can't be the first to gain possession. Jumper was the first to possess the ball. Okay, that's what we got in the chat.
Okay, I'm hearing several things. So why would the jumper be on the wrong side? The table side we're facing, so the referee is facing table side. That is proper. The teams are going in the right direction because this is the start of a game. So they were going. Green was going opposite the table. You see right now we are at Green's side of the court, or at least where their bench is. What did I say that had to end the jumper's restriction? Touching the floor, touching a non-jumper, touching the throwing official or any official, because I guess it theoretically could be one of the other officials. So once the ball hits the floor, all restrictions are off. This should have been a legal play. Because once the ball hits the floor, anyone, including the jumper, can get the ball. As long as it was legally touched before that and he didn't catch it in the air, he can go get the basketball. This was a violation. Now, I say this because this was a state final game a couple years ago. So if they can screw this up, because it does not happen very often. It doesn't. This is the only reason I really know this rule, because I've had some situations that took place that happened. So this isn't a state final game, but this is a sectional semifinal in Illinois.
Hi, Jeff.
Pause for a
Jeff, real
second.
quick. How you doing? This is Bill James. Could you just play that video one more time? It seems like you're trying to slow down that video and put it piece by
It
piece.
might have been choppy. It was jumping on my part. But
So
Yeah,
the point is, I wanted to kind of see the ball actually touch the floor. From what I see the jump. I see the guy in green tip it, and then I see him grab it, but I actually never see it hit the floor. So I just kind of wanted to see it to see it and hear what you're saying, where obviously there should be no restrictions because it did touch the floor.
Does the video seem choppy on you all's end?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
it's very
Yes.
sharp.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
And just right then, I never see the ball hit the floor. It just goes in his hand.
Yeah, I can't see either.
The ball hits the floor right now. On one bounce, he touches it.
Yeah, it's not
Perfect.
working.
Thank you. And I guess I'm just kind of throwing it out there. The floor is the floor, but let's just say the ball after the tip lands directly in the middle of the floor inside their circle. It is still taking off any of the restrictions. Anybody could grab it, even though it's inside the center circle.
Did the jumpers touch it first?
Yeah, yeah. Let's just say, obviously there was the tip,
Absolutely.
and it let's say it dropped right in the middle. Even though it's just those two jumpers inside that square, inside that circle, they are allowed to touch it, is my question.
Yes.
Okay.
They're allowed
So
to
floor
touch
is
it.
the floor is the floor, regardless of where it is after the jump.
Wait, touch what?
Say that again.
You said the jumper touched what?
If it touches the non-jumpers, the floor, or one of the officials.
Why would we touch the
restriction-
jumpers?
What's that? So if it touches one of those things, restrictions are off. So in other words, anything that they were restricted to do, everybody can go get the basketball, including the jumper. So if they touch this ball, now the reason I'm showing this because this happened again and actually this was a few years before this, but this is how a lot of officials don't quite know the rules or screw rules up. Same thing. The jumper right here, they touch it, gets to the highest point, hits the floor, number 20 touches the ball, and a violation is called.
We
This
can't
is
see it hit
incorrect.
the floor.
What's that?
Can you play
We
this
don't
real
see it
time?
in the video. We don't see it hitting the floor.
Can you just play it real time or just regular time?
Regardless, theoretically, if it hit the floor, it don't matter if you sit or not. It's the point. We get
Right.
the point.
Correct.
Yes, it hit the floor, guys.
Right.
So if it hits the floor or hits a non-jumper, hits the referee, the ball is fair game.
Yep.
The restrictions for that are required before the jump end. So anybody can get the ball. This is incorrect to call a violation on the team.
Sir. Thank you.
So that's the point of the video, is to show that if veterans can screw this up, we can screw this up. Anyone can screw this up because they screwed this up by rule. And I'm gonna say this: I was at this particular game, and how much this does not happen. We all looked at. There was a group of us that were officials. They're sitting in the corner, and we're actually in the left-hand corner, closer, right behind the table. And we all looked at each other like, "What just happened? Wait a minute, is that a violation? Wait, is it a violation?" Like it took us 10 minutes to discuss whether we had a violation. So, and we weren't working the game. So I might have called the same violation in the game. So I'm not picking on the officials. I'm just saying that this is how uncommon this happens. This doesn't happen very often, but now you know, and you should all know a rule that if the ball hits the floor, the referee, or any of the non-jumpers, the ball can be caught or touched at that point. The only thing that cannot happen with the jumpers cannot catch the ball in the air. They can't catch the ball in the air unless it hits one of those things, as we stated. And obviously, if it goes out of bounds or something like that, we could have a violation for that. But the restrictions on the jump ball that are required, that are all in our rule book, I think it's Rule 5, I believe, all those restrictions are there. But I just want to make a point. This is legal.
Thank you, Jeff.
It was
Thanks
called
for
a
pointing it
violation.
out. Like you said, thank you.
Right. Now,
I got a
here's
quick
another
question.
thing. Well, let's get to the end of the section, and then I'll answer a bunch of questions. So this is an older game. So does anybody know what happens on a held ball, on a jump ball?
On the held ball, on the jump ball, they would those two would jump.
Which two would jump?
The two on the held ball.
The two on the held ball. So if that is what happens, and that's another obscure rule. So if there's no possession has been established, and the two non-jumpers, which it probably would cause a held ball before possession has taken place, those two have to jump. Whether one is 6'8" and the other one is 5'11", it doesn't matter. They are required for the jump by rule. But what if we have possession before? Watch.
Tie up.
Okay. I'm going to make this easy for you. What was ruled was that red had possession of the ball and white tied it up. So in this case, we do not have a held ball that requires a jump ball. We have a held ball because we have possession has been established. Now, I'm not trying to split hairs here. I'm just telling you what was ruled in this situation. Red 15 had possession of the ball first. Both the referee and U1 made a ruling on this, but we had to discuss it to who was going to get the arrow. Or 15 and 30 have to jump the ball up. But this is something that you might have to discuss. And what we ended up coming to the conclusion was red had the ball first. Now, let me ask you a question. if red has the ball first, who gets the arrow?
Red.
White gets the arrow. So in
Oh,
this
white
case,
gets
who we giving the ball to out of bounds for a throw in?
White.
White. That's my point, is that this is something that happens. And again, I have never had this happen, but one time in my career. But this was something that stood out to me, and this is why I show this video, because we have to know who has possession. Now, we could have ruled that this was just a held ball, but the requirement is those two have to jump, not the original jumpers, because they're not a part of it. So it has to be one or the other. And then because it was, and this was actually overtime, which is an extension of the fourth quarter, the possession arrow started with white getting the ball. Well, red got the ball, so the arrow would be pointed towards white. We gave the ball out of bounds to white, and then we switched the arrow once the throw-in ended legally by white. So that's a whole lot that you got to explain to sometimes the table. And in this case, if I show a whole video of it, the coach was really kind of confused at what had happened until it was explained to him. So these are just some other rules. Now, there is another restriction for the jumpers, and I want to know if anybody can catch this.
And win the next 5 minutes to still pull this game out. If you ask.
Any problems?
I got red moving. Red moving in the middle of the way.
Okay, is that required once they
Yeah.
touch it?
Hey, Jeff, the video is real choppy, so it's kind of hard to really make out what's
Okay.
happening in the plays.
I got you.
Maybe
Well, and I'll help you then, unless this is, and I'll try to slow it down so that everybody can see it. Red appears of the jumpers, touches it. 1, 2, 3.
Mm.
How many times is the jumper allowed to touch it, the basketball on a
Twice.
jump? How many?
Twice.
Only twice. So if they touch it a third time, they've caused a violation. Now, once again, never seen this in a real game until this particular game. Nothing was called in this game. And until afterwards we thought about it, we started talking, like, wait a minute, did he touch it 3 times? And that was the debate. And I'll make very clear, one of the guys is a Division I official. I'm not. The other guy has worked tournament for years. So this caught us by surprise. And me being the referee, I couldn't tell. I wasn't sure, but it looked like, I'm thinking, wait a minute, did he touch it 3 times? But if you're not sure, don't come in and call violations that you're not sure about. If you only touch it twice, it's legal. But that's another thing we got to get ready for when we start a game. You might say that, because most of the time these things don't happen, and then we don't ever have to worry about it. But that one time it does, and it's in a big game in a big situation, you might want to know the rule or might want to get on top of that. Okay, last one, and then we'll go to several questions, because I know there are several. And this might be a little hard because this might be a little choppy. I'll help you. I'm going to play it first. If you guys can't see it, let me know through the chat. But there's something I've never seen in any of my games, and I've only had this pointed out to me online. And that's why this got clipped up. Does anybody see what White does?
Does he hold the other guy down?
He's holding on to the jumper. He's holding on to his opponent. So basically, we have a foul, and we haven't even started the actual part of the game. That is missed, by the way. Now, to be fair, it's missed because nobody ever sees this. This is not something that happens very often, if ever. I don't think I've ever seen or heard of this since this particular situation. So it's one more element that we got to be thinking of. The white player is holding on to the right arm of the black jumper and basically prevents him from jumping, which should have been a foul, or well, should have been a foul, shouldn't have been anything else because he's holding him. And he's even kind of complaining, I'm being held, but nothing is called. And one of the officials, I know for a fact, the Final Four official, and also now is the supervisor of the SEC. That's how experienced he was when this happened. This only happened maybe within the last 8 or 9 years. But this
So
is
would
how.
White then, if you were to call the foul, would White retain possession?
Yeah.
No, if White called a foul, then what do we do with fouls without free throws? We give the ball to the offended team. So Black should have had the ball at the whatever spot on the sideline. And then that's the other thing that's another element to this, because if we have a foul here, are we putting this in the front court or the back court? Well, now it appears we're putting it all in the 28-foot mark, whether it's the front court or back court, based off what the information TJ told us. So that is all stuff that we got to go. And we haven't established the arrow. So who gets the arrow after the throw in?
Right.
White. So these are all things that you got to think of that are kind of going on in the process of this happening. But again, very rare, but somebody probably needs to get this. And in this case, this is probably best called by the U2 because the table side is over here on that side. If this is 2-person, good luck, because the referee probably has to call this if he sees it. Now, I think he's puzzled. He thinks something happened, but he's trying not to get hit. He's trying not to get out the way. He's trying to see if they touch the ball. He's looking at some other stuff. This is not a usual thing. So my point is, we got to be ready. Okay? Got to be ready at the start of a game, because if we're not ready and something happens and the coaches know we screwed something up, now our game is in the toilet before it even gets started. So we got to be ready.
So Jeff, let me
Yeah.
ask you this. Is there kind of like a progression of things the official needs to look at when he's administrating the jump ball? Like, should he have saw that because he should have been looking at the players instead of watching the ball, is my point. Like, what's his priority in administrating the rules? What's his point? What's his priority?
Well, the tosser has to toss the ball. He has to know that he's tossing it between players. He's got to know that. He's probably got to look at the basketball. I always look at the basketball because
Right.
I want to know if I'm tossing, because if it goes left or right,
Exactly. I'm with you.
behind me, I got to call it back if my partner doesn't call it back.
Yep.
So I got to be prepared for that. He's probably got so much because things are literally flying around him. He can't really watch this. So this is probably best for one of the outside officials, the U1 or the U2 in a 3-person. The U1 probably has to make this call in a 2-person. The only problem is the arm that's being grabbed is right next to the referee. Now, obviously, if the referee can see all of this and knows he's being held, obviously you got to call something. But since you didn't call anything, or since he doesn't, then we probably got to get help from somebody. Also, clock status. Did this foul happen before the ball was legally touched?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So if time comes off the clock, we need to set the clock back to 8 minutes or whatever, or 4 minutes, or whatever the time that we're doing the jump ball. It has to be set back. All of that has to be considered, because if we clearly have a foul, no time should have ran off the clock before the ball was legally tipped. Just a little thing.
So
Okay.
somebody in
Any
the
question?
Yeah, so
Let's
somebody in the chat has, is that a dead ball foul even if the game isn't started?
Good question. When does the ball become live on the jump ball?
As soon as it's touched.
Should be as soon as the official tosses it. I would think.
When the referee tosses the ball, the play becomes live. So the clock is not started. The ball becomes live. So once I am in my hand and it leaves my hand, it is considered by rule a live ball. So at that moment, a live ball foul took place. The clock starting or the clock running does not always constitute a live ball. Just like on a throw-in, when we hand the ball to the thrower or it's at their disposal, the ball's live. The clock is not running because we can't have the ball running at least on a throw in that we hand it to them. And then on a free throw, the same thing. Once the ball's at their disposal, the ball is live. So everything that happens after that point becomes a live ball. Everything before that is a dead ball. So this is just a regular common foul, unless you deem there could be intentional or whatever, but the clock should not start. So that's things that you got to think of. And now we got to think of, well, we had to think of it anyway. Where are we putting the ball in play when this foul happens? Are we putting it in the front court of the offended team or their back court? Now the 28-foot mark, it's outside the 3-point line. We're not going to put it at the 3-foot marks by, underneath on the end line. We're going to put it there. So these are things that you all got to think about. I hope that helped. Any questions? Let's go through them really quickly, and we can go on to the other stuff.
Sorry, can I ask you a question about the previous situation? I'm looking at the book right now, the rules book, and it says if the ball contacts the floor without being touched by at least one of the jumpers, the officials shall toss it again. So in that situation, the ball touched the floor before any of the jumpers touching the ball.
Okay, is there a requirement for anybody to touch the ball when it hits the floor?
But it says the official shall toss it again here in the book.
The restrictions that I was talking about, there are restrictions that have to happen before the jump ball ends. One of them is touching the floor. So when the ball hits the floor, bets are off. Anybody can go get the basketball. There's even restrictions around the circle and stuff like that, like who can move. Now, I want to say this too. The other thing that sometimes we look at maybe these two players that are on the U or the green part of the U. There's no restrictions for where they stand if they are 3 foot off of the circle. They can stand behind each other. They can stand in front of each other. They can straddle. One of the things veteran officials do, which drives me nuts, is they always want to manage, well, you can't stand here. You got to stand right next to him. That's not required. The only requirement is if they're around the circle within 3 feet, these players, number 30, number 4, number 11, and this other black jersey player, as long as they can stand adjacent to each other. They cannot stand in front and back of each other. But if you're well off the circle, they can stand anywhere, just like you can on any other play, on any other situation, a throw in, a free throw, that you're not on the lane lines. You can stand anywhere. So stop. And I say this because veterans do this, and I mean big time veterans do this. Stop telling players that they got to move or be in a different spot. That's not what's required by rule. If I want to stand right behind him and right in his back, as long as I'm not pushing him or displacing him or her, I can stand there. Just like you could in the post, just like you could anywhere else on the floor during a throw-in anytime. So stop telling them that. But anytime it hits the floor, all bets are off. We can go get it. Anybody can go get it. That was the point of that video. And again, it's rare. But now, if this happens in y'all's game, you'll know what to do or not what to do, or save your partner from calling a violation, then you know that it's not a violation. Because what should have happened is they should have just given the ball to Green in the first case, in the state final situation that we went back to. Give the ball to Green and go out of bounds if we have an inadvertent whistle. That should have been what they should have done, but that's not what they did. And really, the referee or the tossing official is probably the only one that probably doesn't see everything, didn't know what violation was called 100%. So it's very possible he's just kind of like, okay, because he's trying not to get hit or punched in the face or knocked upside the head or whatever the case may be. Or hit in the eye like I was a couple years ago. So any other questions? Some basic questions before we move on.
So
Okay.
Just real quick, I put it in the chat. So some of the plays that Jeff is talking about, when he said unusual plays, in officiating terminology, we call those atypical plays. Okay, so meaning the plays that are not normal that you may see all the time, or plays that may kind of catch you off guard, or that are very rare plays. We also call those atypical plays.
Okay. Well, let's get into legal guarding position. This is the one that probably there's going to be a little voiceover on this one, but our rule for guarding is under Rule 423. And for those who don't know, Rule 4 is definitions. Definitions is the lifeblood of our game. Everything almost that is explained in other rules come from Rule 4, or the language comes from Rule 4. So guarding has specific rules. Now, this is an NCAA video, but the concept is exactly the same. And so that's why I want to play this.
To establish an initial legal guarding position on the player with the ball, the guard shall have both feet touching the playing court. The guard's torso shall face the opponent from any direction. No time and distance shall be required. When the opponent with the ball is airborne, the guard shall have established legal guarding position before the opponent left the playing court. In layman's terms, the defense must establish legal guarding position by placing 2 feet on the floor facing his opponent. Subsequently, the defense may move laterally or obliquely to maintain that legal guarding position. The defense cannot move forward into the dribbler.
Okay.
The next several plays are examples of the defense establishing and maintaining legal guarding position. Number 3 blue dribbles from the top of the key down the lane line. Number 15 white legally defends the play. Number 15 white establishes legal guarding position with both feet on the floor facing his opponent. Number 15 white is then entitled to move laterally, shown by the blue line, or in any direction behind him, or obliquely. Number 15 white meets all of the criteria for maintaining legal guarding position and is rewarded as the trail official correctly calls a player control foul on number 3 blue.
Okay. So that's the basics of legal guarding position. Notice you did not hear you have to be set. Notice you said you don't even have to be facing the opponent at the time of contact. All you have to do is maintain it by laterally, anywhere backwards, and obliquely. And if you take the contact mostly in the torso or in the front part of your body, meaning, well, your torso, you are considered in legal guarding position. We need to stop the mythology that we have to be set, because you're going to hear coaches say that. He wasn't set, ref. He doesn't have to be. And if they tell you stuff about, all this other stuff, use rule book language. I say, coach, he's in legal guarding position. I don't debate where his feet were, when they were, this, that, the other. If I have him established legal guarding position, which is early on in that process, he can move or she can move. Stop penalizing defenders for doing stuff that they're supposed to do. So let me show you some other situations. Okay. This runs a little slow, but basically the player has 2 feet on the floor. If he's 2 feet on the floor and facing the opponent, that is the moment he has established legal guarding position. So all he has to do is maintain it. He can stop. He can move which way, side to side, backwards. He is allowed to move. So what we have oftentimes, we will say, well, and I even hear people say, well, he didn't have legal guarding position. Well, first off, I just showed you he had legal guarding position to start with. All he's doing is moving to maintain it. This is another play. He's facing him. Left or right foot are on the floor. We're there momentarily, and there's no specific time. They just have to be on the floor at one point. The only caveat to this is that which we said the last thing, if the player goes airborne, the player must be in legal guarding position at that point when they go airborne. So when their last foot leaves the floor, if they are in legal guarding position, they're in legal position. They are not required to do anything else. They can move. Now, they can't move over to take away their, what I would call airspace. Like if I'm going here, I can't come over while they're in the air and take it away from them. That's what is required. But I can back away. I can be like I'm in front of them and I'm backing away because I think I'm going to get hit. Another thing that we need to keep in mind is I can also duck and cower for protection because I think I'm going to get my behind ran over, especially by bigger players. So don't penalize them because they lean back a little bit. They're leaning back because they don't want to take the brunt of the contact. Give them that. And I'm going to say this. This is where philosophy comes in. If a kid in high school is doing all of this, and I got to debate with myself whether that's a block or a charge, it's a charge. It's a charge. It's a charge almost every time. And one of the reasons it's a charge is because if I call charges, I'm going to not have 10 of these plays. If I call blocks, I'm going to call 10 more. I guarantee you. Because they're going to know they're going to do whatever they need to do to get the foul. So give it to them. Stop penalizing defenders. And the question you should always ask yourself when you have these plays is, what did the defender do wrong? This is a question I ask myself. This is really the question I ask. What did they do wrong? If they're not moving forward into the defender, they didn't do anything wrong. If they didn't, when they're airborne, come and slide over while they were in the air and take away their airspace and make sure that there was contact, they didn't do anything wrong. If they're backing up away, they definitely didn't do anything wrong. If they duck, they definitely didn't do anything wrong. So let's stop penalizing them. So let me show some more. The defender has established legal guarding position, even though I have another angle of this, and he stops. His left foot is planted. He doesn't have to be, but that's how we're supposed to do it. That's how they're supposed to do it. Now, as another teaching point, get to the defender. If you get to the defender, this is easy. If you watch the ball handler the whole time, this is difficult. Then it blows up on you. But if you're watching the defender, they're maybe 8-9 feet away from each other, 10 feet away from each other. I'm watching the defender right now. I'm not watching the ball handler. The ball handler is not going to do anything for the most part that's going to cause me any trouble. If I see the defender and that contact happens, I know exactly what to call. He calls a player control foul. Here's the other angle to this, just to show how the angle could change. He does nothing wrong. He runs right into the ball, to the defender, and doesn't do it. Now, he takes a step forward at the time of contact. That's different. Then that's a blocking foul. But that's not what he did. He's backing away, and then he stops, which he's allowed to do because it says no time and distance. Okay? So more plays.
Producing for UConn throughout this tournament. Behind the shoe, instead drives it, and it's a charge. And you got guys out there not accustomed when that's the case. And that's the second on Roscoe Smith. That's a big call with Howard. Had it gone the other way, would have been his second. You know, Butler has a saying. They say taking charges is our.
Okay, another thing to think of too. If I take all of this context squarely in the chest, this should really be easy. If I take it maybe on the side and I'm still kind of moving and maybe moving into the defender, that's where it could be a little more trickier. But if he takes this square in the chest, that means he was in front of him. And now it says torso, so it doesn't even matter how you're facing your torso. But I'm just saying, as a guide, if I'm taking this square in the chest and I'm moving backwards obliquely and I take it right in the chest, I was in legal guarding position. Stop penalizing our defenders for doing stuff. This is one that I think is completely wrong. Because watch the defender. He stops. He was already in legal guarding position before this. He stops. And because he goes airborne, he has to be there. He didn't do anything but prepare for the contact. Got run over, and the dumb official calls a block. Meaning myself. Okay. And I remember this play because I got to the defender late. It blew up on me. But it's my call, so I screwed it up. And part of me is thinking now, does anybody in the game say anything? No. So we're gonna have plays that that if you're honest with yourself, which you should be honest with yourself if you think you got something right. Whether they
Jeff,
say anything or not. Say
Could
that
I add
again?
something?
Yes.
So this is Gary. Just want to add something to what you're
Oh,
saying,
okay.
Jeff.
Go ahead, Gary.
Officiating the defense and looking for separation is very, very important to find the correct angle to find the point of contact. Would we all agree with that? One thing that will really help you is if the play is coming to you and you're officiating the defender and you can see the separation. I always used to look at the back of a defensive player's knees. If they buckle like a cheap set of lawn furniture, that was a pretty good blocking call if that's what you came out with, because they didn't really take all of the contact. Now, if the offensive player closed the separation and initiated the point of contact and drove through that defender, now we got an offensive foul. And that was the distinguished between the two was I was watching the defender's knees as much as possible on those contact situations. But we got to be in position and have the angle to see that correctly.
And I wasn't. So that's why I'm showing this, because this is why I see video, because I know I got to the defender really late. It basically blew up on me, and I just guessed. I said, well, I think everybody will like that call block. And I probably sold it because I knew I got it wrong or I wasn't confident in the call. So just cues that I see on myself on film. If I'm not confident, I'm going to give that call probably 3 or 4 times. If I'm confident, then I'm probably going to give it once or be vocal with my signal or my voice. Another play.
One more chance for Colorado State. Warren Reed off the ground. Got it. Offense. And once again, Warren just doing so many things for this team, and this great hustle to get back. He's well established. Excellent call. No question about it.
Now, I want to highlight 2 things on this. The lead did not call this. The lead is here at the bottom. The center is over here on the side. Neither of them blew their whistle on this. One reason, we're going to get beat, guys. So the lead is probably trying to pull up because he's trying to get a better angle, because normally as that play goes to the basket, if he tries to go to the baseline or the end line, he's going to be late. So he needs to come up with the play. So he's trying to come up with a play the best he can, and he probably doesn't see it. The trail, who was outside of the play, which is right here, has the best angle. Now you might say, well, we talk about calling your primary and this, that, the other, but we're in transition. So this is not, we're not in a set primary. We got to help each other out on this case. So he has the best angle and he gets this right. But this is not a play, and I'm saying this because I don't want everybody to think that we got to call 10 of these out of our primary. This is probably one play out of the 50 that they had, or probably more than that because there's more plays to call than 50 plays. He had to make this call because something had to be called. This was not a no call. This was a run over. And he gets there, 2 feet on the floor facing. He actually hops into the play, runs him over. Great call by the trail official.
Hey,
but
Jeff,
a rare situation.
Real quick, kind of go to the baseline view if you can on that play and pause it right when they make chest-to-chest contact if you can. If possible, if you get the baseline camera view.
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah, this view right here.
2 feet on the floor facing. He's facing him now.
Contact. If you can pause it as soon as they make contact.
He's facing him there. He's set. And he doesn't have to be.
Now, right there. Hold it right there. right when he gets that ball, the frame right before this one. If you can go, I don't know if you can go back a half a frame or two. Keep going, right? Go back forward, just a frame or two. Forward. Right.
Right here.
One more. Right there. So
Okay.
what I want everybody to pay attention, because a lot of people say, well, he's not completely vertical. Well, let's be honest, you know, they're moving. So again, you want to find the feet first. So they may say his arm is not vertical though. His arm made contact with the offensive player. You have to look at what's happening from the feet up. Okay, from the feet up. Okay. Now, if he does something with his arm that clearly displaces the offensive player or clearly makes illegal contact, yes, then you can come with a foul. But on this particular type of play, don't get caught up in the weeds of, oh, his arm wasn't perfectly straight but you got to understand, he was already in his legal guarding position before the contact even took place. The offensive player went into the defender. Okay. So we have to keep that in mind as well.
Okay. And also, where's the point of contact? Point of contact with his chest. Point of contact not with his arms. If he hits him in the chest, and it's another thing, hits him in the chest and he makes his arms go down because he gets hit in the chest, don't penalize him because his arms went down because he got hit in the chest. I hit you in the chest and your arms are up, they're gonna go down. They're gonna move. So don't penalize them just for doing that. Let's move on to some other plays. Let's do something real quick for the effort of time. So this is screening. Now, screening, unlike legal guarding position, does have time and distance. Time and distance meaning if I'm moving fast, I get up to 2 steps before the screen. Okay. The other thing is if I'm setting a blind screen, I must give a single step, a full step before contact. Get the term moving screen out of your lexicon. If you say that, first of all, you're going to drive me crazy. And then you're going to drive some people crazy because moving screens are not illegal in themselves. Screens can be legal either moving or stationary. Because if I'm set up and I don't give the right time and distance and I'm stationary at time of contact, I've set an illegal screen. Or if I'm wide, even though I'm stationary and you go around my legs, that's an illegal screen. I got to be within my frame. So we're going to just show some plays that just kind of cover some basics of what the screen is. And this is what happens a lot. A lot of screens roll. And the other thing I want you to think of is ask yourself, is this a screener or a cutter? Because if I'm setting a screen, I'm set this one set of rules. If I'm cutting, then I have another set of rules that don't apply to screens. So is this a screener or a cutter? I'm going to make this easy. This is a screener. He rolls into the screener, into the defender. He sets up. This is fine. This is fine. This is fine. But as he starts to move, he's using his arms to give this shooter space. This is an illegal screen. That was not called, by the way, and should have been called. The other thing I want to highlight, screens are 2 official plays in a 3-person game. They're almost always a 3-person game. This should have been the trail, should have stayed engaged on this play. And when it gets there, he should have followed this. The on-ball official, who this play was coming towards, he didn't see the whole screen. I know both of them very well and had a conversation with both of them about this play and how to cover this. He didn't see this because he's watching the trail over here, or the center is watching the ball handler. He's not watching this screen or doesn't see the whole thing. So he misses it. But he should have got help from the trail. Okay? I'll make that simple because we got to go through some of these. Other situations with screens. Again, 2 official plays. He never stops when he hands the ball off. This is why this is illegal. Because once he hands the ball off, he's a screener. Actually, you can screen with the ball. That's a whole nother issue, but just for purposes. Once I throw the ball off, I don't get time to take 3 or 4 steps to go into you. I have to be sat or in a legal position before that contact. And then if it picks them off, get them, especially on marginal plays. This is a good play. This is why screens doesn't matter whether you're moving or stationary. It's where you're located. Now, I'll help you out a little bit. If I'm moving in the same direction as a player, the person behind is responsible for the contact. But then I can't veer off and make sure that I bump them off. Transition play, the center coming up makes a great call on this. And Vernell Turner, who you probably, some of you will meet or know, he's the one who made this call. Great call. Because watch him. He goes and kind of picks him off to try to prevent him from getting there. That's a foul. It has to be called. And you might say, does it really affect the play? Well, if I throw an elbow and you running, you think I might want to go down to the other end and maybe say, oh, okay, he threw an elbow. I got him next time. If you don't call that, that's what could possibly happen. This is one. This is a little more controversial, but I'm going to tell you, I think this is legal. Several replays of this. For the same reason. She's moving in a direction. She's allowed to stop. They're both moving in the same direction. As long as you feel that she doesn't make herself bigger by sticking her butt out or whatever, this is a legal screen. But when I've shown this to people, I've had the whole room debate it. But I think this is legal, at least in principle it's legal, because she doesn't veer off. She goes in the direction she's going. Nobody helped her out to tell her, screen! And she picks her off. As a matter of fact, they had to stop play. She was hurt because she doesn't see this maybe till the last minute. But if you know the principles, you might realize that this is free. Now, if you think she backs into her and does something, that's different. But I think that this is legal. Gary might have an opinion. That's fine. You can give it, Gary. I'm just telling you, I think it's legal based on our rules. But the other thing is, if you're going to come out your primary for screens, make sure you see the whole play. I think we're going to show this again. So, officials rotating. Looks like a pretty good screen. And he kind of runs into him, and he sees the end result. So when we talk about start, develop, and finish, we got to see the whole thing. I think that this is not an illegal screen. I think this is just a bad outcome. Maybe you can make a case he's a little wide, maybe. Or maybe he uses his arms, but I don't know if the lead is the one that can see this. So we also got to be careful when we put whistles on plays. Anytime we're taking away possessions, those are big. Possessions are about our game. Okay, hold on. I think this might be it. Oh, okay. And again, they happen quickly. He hands it off, and he picks off a moving defender. That's illegal. He's got to give him time and distance. And it's the reason it's a step or two, because he's supposed to be able to theoretically try to get around the screen if it's set. Now, he makes no contact. This is not illegal, but he picks him off, and this was not called. And again, state final, this is becoming more and more common in our game because it's happening at the other levels because of movement and motion. And now they're doing it at the high school level. It's happening quite often. It's not unusual for me to get at least one of these a game, because that's how often it's happened. Because the whole action is to give it to him so I can give you an open lane to wherever you need to go. So we got to pay attention to these. And again, this is what I talk about with 2 official plays. The action happens here. And again, coaches don't think that proximity is why we call things. It is not. Screens are 2 official plays in 3-person, and really in 2-person as well. It's just harder because you might be really coming from a long way in a 2-person game. So the ball handler is going to the center, and he hands it off, and he calls it. As a matter of fact, you can see the coach is like, see, he's over there. It should have been his call. Well, this official, after the game or when we talked about it, did not see the play. He didn't see what happened. And you can see there's a result. There's a lot of contact. So we got to get the appropriate person. It would have been a travesty to call foul on 24 who doesn't do anything wrong. He's allowed to move to get to that spot. Okay. Any questions real quick? On legal guarding position specifically. Because I'm going to kind of go through these other ones quickly in the effort of time.
Your videos are still choppy. Your videos are still a little choppy, just so you know.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll try not to. I'll see what I can do. This is flopping. This is head bobbing by the offensive player. 2 angles of this. And the reason why this is a thing, because this is a full official play. He's not hit in the head. He's not hit anywhere other than maybe at his body. At best, maybe a foul on the defender, maybe. But when he exaggerates it, now I got to make a decision. And the reason why I'm saying this is because immediately when this happened, look at how much time is in the game. It's a college game. The coaching staff went nuts that this happened in front of. You got to call flop. You got to call flop. Guys, they know the rule too, or they know there is a rule. So we ought to be aware of this. This probably should have been called a flop. And this is obviously college before it came to high school, but the same principle applies. Head bob. If I'm throwing my head back and I wasn't hitting the head, you're suspect. This is one, I don't know if I showed here, but look at the defender. He throws his head back like 2 or 3 times for no reason. This is a flop. This is what probably needs to be called. Now, unlike the offense, if the offense does it, we can stop play immediately and then we can rule the flop. It's just a warning the first time. The second time, it's a technical foul, goes to the team, not the individual. So 3 can do this 5 times. We're not fouling 3 out because we're calling 3 technical flops. Okay. It goes just to the team. It's a team foul. But if this happens with the defense, let the play out. This basket counts. Then stop play and rule a flop. Plain and simple. Here's a player that was doing this at least early part of a game, and he did some other stuff, but basically, and this was before we had a rule, this high school game, before we had the rule, and when they used to do this, I used to tell them, will you knock that crap off? That's what I would tell them. And usually I'd get their attention, and he would do it. But he not only does this, tries to get a cheap foul, then he does this on the shot. Not touched at all, but came up arguing that he got hit, which he did not. And you can see, didn't even land on his foot. Position adjust to get to this point, to see it. I'm looking at his feet. Point of contact might have been his feet because it wasn't his arms. He misses him. But the player's acting like he got fouled, and not only acting, he's complaining. He's saying he got fouled, and I said, no, you didn't. And then I went to him later, and I said, will you knock that off, please? Stop. I'm not calling it. Every time you do that, I'm just going to assume you're not fouled. And guess what? He stopped doing it. Okay? So, another head bob on a screen right here. Act like he got hit directly in the face, and he didn't. Now, obviously, I think this was before the rule, But this is a tactic, and the guys, they do this because they see this at the other level. They see the NBA players do this, and I know people love to blame LeBron James, but you could watch NBA games there all day. You'll see James Harden, you'll see Steph Curry, you'll see a bunch of them try to do this because it tends to get them a foul, or at least get them to be considered that they think it's a foul. But this is a tactic that they're doing, and we don't have replays, and we can't look at these like the other levels can. So we gotta be aware of it and address it. This is another situation. I'm trying to make this so this is not choppy. Watch what number. First off, they probably should have a foul before this. So we got to put hands on the ball handler is also a point of emphasis. Okay. And hand checking and perimeter fouls, point of emphasis this year. But look what's happening. 3 is probably grabbing 2's arm, but why is 2 acting like he's getting hit in the head? So we probably should have a foul here, but my point is don't fall for the tactic. Probably should have a foul first on number 2 to look like he's putting his arm on it. But this is how quickly we got to make these decisions. Because I remember when this happened, I'm sitting there thinking, oh, brother, we're going to have this all night. So, and this is a proper way to have a flop with the defense. If there's an extended period of time. So here we got to play, have a flop. Now, the only thing I will say is, TJ talked about this last week. The signal is only really required once. I would suggest, just from a aesthetic standpoint, especially during live play, give it twice. And the reason being is because during live play, you want everybody to know I'm ruling a flop on this. I'm not calling a block. I'm not calling a charge. I'm calling a flop. And I think there was enough where I thought he's trying to fool me. You can only give this signal maybe a couple times at best. And we don't need to be as adamant as this official was. I think it was his first flop of the year. And trust me, but at least I knew he had a flop. And then we could go. So let the play go. And they even get a shot. Now, there was no technical foul, so this was just a warning. So this is not hard. But if we do have a technical foul and we go with this, we're going to give the ball back to White after 2 free throws of anybody that's eligible to shoot can shoot. And then we're going to give the ball at the division line opposite the table to White. So technically, we could have possibly maybe a 3 or 4 point play extra. So 7 points possibly. So we got to know that, and we can't give the ball to the other team just because they made the basket. Okay? And then there are just plays that just happen. This is neither a flop, block, or anything. This player, I think, was expecting contact, and he gets jumped around. If that happens, we don't have to call anything. I don't think he's trying to fool the referees. I think he's just trying to take a charge, like I talked about earlier, and he gets missed. Like, oh my God, what happened? Now, if he falls on the ground or the floor and trips somebody, he's not in a legal guarding position, by the way. So that could be a foul. But just him simply drawing back and trying to prepare for contact, there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing at all. And last one, I think, that I'll show, defensive flop. Let the play continue. Then stop the play. And then go and report the flop. I think that's it. Those. Yeah, that's the only ones that I'll show. Any questions on flopping?
Somebody asked in the chat if the offense flops, whistle right away and the ball goes the other way. That's the question. So if there's an offensive team that flops, we blow the whistle right away, and does the ball go the other way?
No. If there's no technical foul and we're just giving a warning, we stop play immediately. And the reason we stop play immediately because we don't want them to benefit from trying to fool us. If it's just a warning, we're going to give the ball right back to where we interrupted the play. But we do it immediately as long as there's not a shot, as long as they have possession or still have team possession of the ball. If there is no possession, like there's a steal or something like that, then that has other applications with alternating possession or a shot, alternating possession possibly. But even on a shot, I'm going to say this. If we have a shot and the shooter flops and the ball hits the rim and now we start going after the basketball, wait to get the possession by one of the teams, then stop play and then give it flop, especially if the offensive team or the team that shot got the ball back. Gary can maybe clarify that, but that's the procedure that we mostly talked about. Is that right, Gary, or is that a little different?
That is correct.
Okay. So I just want to be clear because we heard different stuff. So
Somebody else had a couple of other questions.
Go ahead real quick because it's the last section.
Well, it's actually two more questions. Does the possession change with a flop one?
No, not unless there's a technical foul.
Okay, and
technical foul would be because we're administering the technical foul, and part of the penalty of all technical fouls, for the most part, for National Federation, is the ball to the offended team and free throws. So if they shoot the free throws, then they get the ball after the free throws, opposite the table division line. So they would lose possession if they were not the team. If they were the team that offended, they would lose the ball.
Okay.
Or the opportunity for the ball.
And someone else has Bryce that says it's a flop tech on the team on the head coach. Okay, I guess he's saying. Okay.
It is a team technical. It's like calling timeout, like the Chris Webber rule. So if I call timeout excessively, it doesn't matter that Chris Webber called the timeout. We're not sticking Chris or the coach. It is strictly on the team. No added fouls other than to the foul count, no to the no player, and no, we're not penalizing the coach. So and that has implications because they can sit if we call it on them, or if we call it on a bench personnel. It doesn't matter. It's just a team technical. And again, as I said in the first one play with number 3, if 3 does it 5 times, we're not ejecting 3 or disqualifying 3 from the contest. He's going to stay in the contest, even though he's a knucklehead and going to do it that many times. Now, he probably won't be in the game because the coach is smart enough to pull his behind out, but it can be done as many times by one player or multiple players. And the warning goes to the team. So if all 5 starters do it once, it's a team technical for the 4 times after that. Okay.
And then someone says, is there a mechanic for flopping? And then a different question is, if it's a technical foul, is it 1 or 2 free throws?
2 free throws all the time, because all technicals in high school are 2 free throws and the ball. And yes, the mechanic or the signal will stop the clock, give the signal that you've given that I'm calling a flop, then go to the table, and we're going to report this similar to a foul. We're going to report it, say number 3, blue, flop warning or flop technical or whatever the case may be, so that they can record it so that they know that if we get another flop, because you could have a flop in the first 4 minutes of the game, you could have it in the last 2. I hope that doesn't happen, but if it does and it's obvious and you call it, we got to report it because we got to make sure that it is reported. And each team gets a warning before a technical foul. And again, I have not seen, at least last year, I don't think I saw a technical foul for flopping, but I believe we didn't call it enough, because we have a lot of situations where players are doing stuff. And again, guys are getting this from the other levels. They're watching television and seeing this, and they've been getting away with it for a long time. And men's college about 7 years ago said, we're putting an end to this, and this is where this all came from. And even the NBA followed them, and the NCAA women followed after a while. So this is all through basketball. So if we just call this, we'll stop it. And I'm going to say this, when we had this rule in NCAA level, the first year, I think it was like 18, I think was the year, when we first had it, we called it all the time. I mean, flops that weren't flops. We called everything that looked like a flop. And then the next year, we didn't have to call as many, but we still called a lot. Then the third year, it was almost like I haven't had a flop all year. Whereas the 2 years before, I had about 5 or 6 myself, and probably was in a game where 2 or 3 of them happened. We don't have that anymore. If we call this, they'll stop doing it. Trust me. They'll catch on.
The last
Okay.
last two real quick. What does the mechanic look like? Because the video is real choppy. And then the second question is, after reporting the foul to the table, do we report it to the coach too?
Well, we report it to the table. So it says the table and the coach, I think, by rule. So you should say it just like you're reporting a foul, the same way. But flop, blue, three, flop warning, or flop technical or whatever, and make sure you clarify with the table that it's not a player technical, because they'll put it in the book and then we'll have a situation. So make sure you communicate that well. And even with your partners, because your partners need to know, because if they are not aware there's a flop warning, they may call a flop warning later and we should have had a technical. So communicate that. The mechanic is simple. Stop the clock, put your hand up in the air, give the signal. Really, you only need to give it once when you're reporting. But if it's during play and the play is going to continue, I suggest twice. I know TJ said once. I say twice because you want people to see that that's what you're ruling. Sometimes the one signal is confusing or doesn't. Your partners don't see it. You don't need to give it multiple times. You don't need to do all that. Just one time works. And then once the play is over, boop, 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 stop, flop warning out of bounds, blah, blah, blah. You do all the same stuff that we would do. Go report it to the table so that they know and there's clarity.
Great questions, everybody. Great questions.
Okay, let's get into some unusual situations. I want to get to these kind of quickly, and then we can answer a bunch of questions. I don't really care. So, might say to yourself on free throw, these are pretty ho-hum, don't have much to worry about. Well, not so much. This is the second of, I think, 2 free throws. We have a foul. Box out from the shooter and puts him on the floor. Now, the better question is, where are we putting the ball at? This was put on the side. It should have been put on the end line. And you might say, why does that matter? Because what if this is a close game and we put it at the wrong spot and now they got to go further away from the basket? Put it at the right spot. And we kind of just did this, and this might be a situation we need to help each other, but the contact happened in the circle. Clearly happened in the circle. So this is a foul inside, now the 3-point line. So now it goes to the 3-point marks or the 3-foot marks right outside the lane on the end line. So that's where it should have gone. We didn't communicate that very well.
Hey, Jeff, since this new is somewhat fairly new within the last few years or so, or several years, you may want to explain to the officials, especially for those that used to play basketball, why this is a foul based on the new rule.
Okay, well, it's not really a new rule, but you can't displace anybody. But they put in a rule a few years ago about crossing the lane, and that's the other thing. So if he misses this, what do we also do? So I'm throwing that out there. But you can't cross the lane to box out the free throw shooter. They're allowed to kind of get themselves under control because they're concentrating on the free throw shot. So if you cross the line, it's technically a violation, which should be called. It's a defensive violation. So if he makes the shot, there is no violation. If he misses the shot, he gets another free throw or gets another opportunity. The reason why this is important, because if he misses his free throw, we're not going to shoot with everybody on the line. We're going to shoot this with, if I'm not mistaken, with only him on the line, and then we're going to give the ball back to them at the spot where the foul took place or the new location of the throwing, because that's just how we do it. So, but that's the things you got to think about, and it might even be a situation where you might have to communicate that to each other so that could take place. So this is a foul because he cannot cross the line and box him out. Now, do they do this periodically? Yes. And I'm not saying nitpick these and this, that, the other. But if you're clearly displaced, a foul needs to be called. Matter of fact, I could even consider another kind of foul if this happens. because he's vulnerable. I can show you a video of a taller player. He bails into his knees and his knees buckle. These are dangerous plays, so we need to address that. But again, rare situation that happened. This is probably does not happen very often, but it's something you just got to be aware of. And the trail in a three-person crew has the least responsibility from the lane line, so don't fall asleep. But why was the trail the only one who called something on this? It should have been the center, probably the center, because that's actually part of his responsibility. So that's the other thing to think about. So there you go. Just an unusual thing. This is an unusual thing in the situation that it's in. This is a 13-point game at the time. So you might say to yourself, what's really going to happen that's going to be unusual? Okay, first of two, makes a free throw, subs. Looks like game is probably in question, even though it's 40-something seconds to still have a game. But you got to be ready for the unexpected. Everybody see that? And I know it might be a little choppy. He throws the ball at the rim to try to miss it. But is he legal? I'll help you. No, he's not. And he gets fouled. And if you see me right there, I'm explaining to the coach because he's going nuts that we did not call the violation. And I told him, I think it hit first. So this was the very first play I looked on film. He's inside too early. His foot's already inside. The ball does not hit the rim. That is a violation. So not only did we not call the violation, we called a foul. Now, there's probably one official that has nothing to do with that, and that's the lead, because he doesn't have the perspective on whether that ball hit first. He has no clue. He calls the foul, which he should have. But the center and the trail probably should have a better idea on this one. And then also, from a positioning standpoint, what is the center doing on the shot? Where's he going? And I'm showing that for a reason, because this might be why we missed it. Or one of the reasons we missed it. He's backing away. Where is he going? Stay with the play. We talked about this, even though free throws are different than normal shots, but we have to assume that free throws are going to be missed, because they often are. Yes, you will have teams that will shoot 70, 80%, 60% sometimes. So there are teams that will make majority of it. Usually teams don't shoot under free throw 50% for free throw. But we got to stay engaged in those plays. We can't back away because we think the play is over. Because if there was a foul, he might be one that has to call it. Thank God we did have a foul, but this was controversial. And to the point where we almost teed up the coach because of the stuff he was saying. But he at least had some restraint. Okay. Moving on to plays during dead ball. This is probably where, if we call the first thing, maybe we don't have the second thing. But that doesn't excuse what happens beyond this. So look at the first contact. And the player that made the basket wants to tell his opponent how great of a play that was. Well, he actually gets grabbed. And then this is seen. Now, I'm going to play this out for a reason. Because sometimes when we have technical fouls and we have things that happen in games, we need to discuss it. One of my pregame items is always, I say this to everybody, I don't care how unemotional we think the technical foul is, we need to talk about it. And the reason we need to talk about it, because for one, and I hate it when also people say it's just like any other foul. Technical fouls are never like any other foul. They are unto themselves contentious, argumentative, combative, whatever they are never smooth and easy. So when we got to discuss certain things, so this is what is happening. We're discussing, did you see something first? Did you see this? Is there a possibility we can get one of the other players? That's all what's going on. Give me some information, because when we come out of this and we make a ruling, we don't want to make a ruling because one official thought one thing. Get the opinion of everybody. So if you notice, there was a discussion before this was even reported to the table. And in college, they have some different rules about technical fouls, so that's not neither here nor there. That's one reason we're discussing. But we want to make sure that, hey, did we miss something that we should have called earlier, that should have been called into play? Now, I did not see the little cheap grab by 24 right here. You see he grabs him and gets a reaction from 23. I did not see all of that. And then I get him only for the technical foul. But part of our discussion was, did we see anything else? And our partner, who is rightfully so, he's going down to the other end because the play's over. But I would say this, and we talked about this, if this block charge play is called, we may not have anything. We call a charge, we call a block, we call something. Maybe that none of that happens. And that's how what we talked about that later. And then we talked about it after film, that we looked at film. But the point is, get together, have a conversation, get the players to the bench. That was the other thing. We said, guys, go to the bench, go to your bench, so we can talk for however long this takes. Shouldn't take but a couple minutes to just make sure that we're going in the right direction. We got the right player. We got the right, because sometimes what happens too is chaos. We forget the player. We don't know we haven't talked about who's shooting, or we shoot on the wrong end. That happens too. So make sure that we communicate that before we go and report that to the table. And then if we have to, explain to the coach. So part of that conversation was also, I'm explaining to the coach what we have. And as I say, this is why it's not the same as any other foul, because all I got was an argument about that situation. Is everybody with me still? Because my thing crashed.
Yeah. You stopped sharing?
It did. Hold on. And we can do a couple more and we could go. Hold on.
Are you guys getting some good information out this training? If so, let us know in the chat.
Okay, hold on. Let me do this real quick. I only have a few more anyway.
Good. Hopefully you guys are picking up some nuggets that you can add to your repertoire.
And let me get through some of these last videos, because there's some of them are self-explanatory, but I want to make sure that we kind of cover them so that we can answer or get to questions afterwards. Okay, this is a run-of-the-mill intentional foul. As a matter of fact, this might even be flagrant in our rules. This is Anthony Davis, his 1 year that he's at Kentucky, and he's pulling away, and the player just said, nope, you're not going to do anything, and pulls him to the floor. Now, I want to also help you this. Not playing the ball is one of them, is one of our considerations. Excessive contact is another. That's for intentional foul. If we think it's excessive and it's savage in nature, we can go flagrant. And I think this could be argument that this is a flagrant foul in high school, but this is definitely at best an intentional foul. An intentional foul does not mean intentionally fouling somebody. That's not what that means. It's just a classification of a foul. And this has to be upgraded to something else. And you see the official, he comes in really hard. He's telling everybody, I got an intentional foul. I have no issue with that. But if there's any question, let's still get together and talk about it, because we may do the same thing we did on the technical foul. Hey, Jeff, Clarence, you got something different? You got something? Did you see more of the play? This, that, the other? Because then we may talk about it and we may upgrade it. Or if we had just called regular foul initially, I may want to go and talk to my partners about it as well. But the thing is that this is a run of the mill. This is easy. This needs to be upgraded. And again, the issue might be flagrant. And one of the considerations is do you think he almost hurt him? Do you think do we have other problems in this game? Like, did we have other technicals or flagrant fouls or something in the game? I might consider all of that. This play may not be unto itself, but I think they went with basically an intentional foul in this situation. But if they went more, I don't think anyone would have disagreed with them. This is another situation. Rivalry game. They do not like each other. And see, the officials are coming to the party. Coaches are coming onto the floor. Trainers are coming onto the floor. We got to make sure that we get this all settled and separated before. Now, to the kids' credit, they didn't react in a way, but I thought I was going to have to hold back the bench on the side that I am. And I'm actually talking to him now, you see in the video, to try to talk him off the ledge, because he's saying all kinds of things to me about how they're trying to hurt him and this, that, the other. And I'm trying to lower the temperature of the game. And now we also know that our assistant coaches, our head coaches can come onto the floor to stop trouble. So don't penalize them. Now, if we have other players come onto the floor and non-adults come onto the floor, meaning not assistant coaches, we could have an issue. But fortunately, this was under control in a close game. But these two don't like each other. And that should be a pregame item. Talk about that. If you have a rivalry game, even though the teams were vastly different in talent, it ended up being a close game. But you want to know, hey, have you had these schools before? You know they don't like each other. You know they're right across the down the road from each other. They're in the same school district. They know each other. They may not like you, those kids. Those are things you need to talk about so that when these things happen, you're prepared. But we called one without hesitation. Okay. I'm going to show this one. This is a college game, but let's talk about this one. This has some elements to it.
And that's okay. That was a good foul by Graver. He continues to impress me with his basketball smarts, Jake. You know, he picks up a foul because he goes, I don't have any so far. Why should I give? Oh, are they going to give him that bucket?
I think they're going to call an intentional foul here on Graver.
Oh, gee,
Okay.
Chris.
What you just saw was there was a call to a player going to the basket. He grabs him from behind, not playing the ball. We don't signal it at first. We come together and discuss it. Hey, Jake, do you have this? Do I have this? Do you think it's this? Do you think it's that? Blah, blah, blah. We come up with, in that level, F1, which is the same as an intentional foul. So we come up with it and we talk about it. Anybody remember who was fouled? And you can blurt it out. If you don't know, I'm going to tell you in a minute.
Not quite buying that all.
Because an intentional foul means that only the fouled player can shoot, and if that player is injured, the substitute can shoot. So who's about to shoot the free throws? And who was fouled? Let me just ask this. Was 30 the one that was fouled?
My guess is someone who wasn't involved in the play shooting the free throws.
What's that?
I said my guess is someone who was not involved in the play and is probably a better free throw shooter is the one who's end up shooting the free throws here.
Number 2 was the fouled shooter. And then we realize it after he shoots the first free throw. Now, the reason this is important is because does anybody know what could be a problem if the wrong shooter goes to the free throw line on purpose? We'd have a potential technical foul. Now, I say potential because we did not rule one. We think that we did not communicate this well. That's what we wrote it up as. We didn't communicate that this was an intentional foul, that only the foul shooter. I think they thought it was a technical foul, which meaning anybody can shoot. But in this case, we didn't communicate that very well. So my point is, if a coach brings that up, well, he sent the wrong guy to the line to shoot, we got to be prepared to answer. And whether we think it was on purpose or not, we better have an answer one way or the other if we don't give a technical foul. So we did not call a technical foul because of that, but it's a correctable error, by the way, because if you notice when he shot the free throw, did he make it? I don't think he made it, because that matters. Yes, he did make it. So he makes the free throw. So not only do you have to correct this, you got to take the points off the board because it happened in a dead ball during the time frame because the ball has to be live and the clock has to be running. That's one of the correctable errors. So you can't give it unwarranted or unmerited free throw and the wrong number of free throws. So we gave an unmerited free throw to the wrong shooter so we can correct this. So we take the points off the board, the 1 point off the board, and then we were talking about it because we went too fast because we were trying to figure the other stuff out. And then we put the right free throw shooter on the free throw line. So that is what happened. And that's what was supposed to happen. But it was a screw up by the crew and not just myself and my partner that called the foul, everybody, because we got to be paying attention to that. But sometimes what happens when you start discussing things, you forget who we fouled and who was going to shoot properly. So keep that in mind. Okay. This is an intentional foul. I'm just going to make it simple. Does this basket count? So he's on a breakaway. There's no clear path like in the NBA, but you cannot just grab somebody to prevent them from an obvious advantage. So the reason I'm showing this play, if you reward this basket, how many free throws are we giving? Somebody can blurt it out.
Some people are saying one.
One.
Person said two.
For those who say one, tell me why one.
Continuation.
Okay.
Took one
Those who
step
say-
after the foul.
Okay. So we're not counting if we count the basket, we're going to
Yes.
give one free throw.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody who disagree?
I disagree. I think it's 3.
It's 3? Okay. Why 3?
Because the free throw for the continuation plus every intentional foul is 2 free throws, no?
It's 2 free throws, yes. But how many? But are we giving 2 free throws or 3 free throws?
I would think it would still be the 2 free throws for the intentional foul plus the 1 free throw.
Johnny, you are correct. It is 2 free throws for all intentional and all flagrant fouls. If the basket goes in after the shot is taken or the shooter continues their motion to the basket, it is 2. Always, 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 except for one time. And then one time is on a missed 3-point shot. So if I miss a 3-point shot and I'm intentionally fouled, then we get 3 free throws. But anytime the ball goes in on an intentional and or flagrant foul, it is always at least 2 shots. And the ball at the closest spot of that foul, which in this case would be on the end line. That's why I showed this play.
Okay. Duly noted.
And
So
this
it
is
3?
another unusual situation. I've shown this play to several people. This is done a lengthy discussion.
plays, and guess what? What? Is that a travel?
I think it should have been a travel.
I don't understand. A technical's been called on John Bowler, and he's saying, look, that was a travel and you missed it. What happened was Jamel Jones again went for the assist to Tremere Fraley. Fraley caught it, went up for the layup, missed it, came down with the ball after it was knocked out of his hands, and it did look like he went up and down and traveled. He got the follow-up shot, and John Bowler is saying, I think that was a definite travel out there. You missed it. Let me say something. And the official called the team.
Okay, what is he doing here? He's shooting. Just because it hit the rim and he's stumped by it, that's a shot. It's like a missed dunk. He can get the ball or catch the ball and come back down with it. Now, the reason I'm saying this caused such a discussion because when I was shown this play or someone pointed this out to me, I went around to several officials at many levels to say, is this a shot? There's no reason that this is not a shot. This is a shot. And not only that, if we're going to now invoke the shot clock, think of it this way. It hit the rim on a try. It resets the shot clock. So this was a legal play. And the coach went nuts, which I'm not surprised, and got teed up because that doesn't give them the right to now be disrespectful or unsporting. So the point is that we got to know this. And I actually talked to two of the officials in this particular game. The one on the end line is a good friend of mine. He basically didn't see, wasn't sure. So he can't call something he's not sure about. And then the other two officials apparently said, yeah, he touched the rim. So we have to know what the principle of the rule is. Now, if he doesn't touch the rim and comes back down to the floor, yes, it's a travel, but not in this case. Question.
It's only about, we had 8 feet, so you can get about 4.
Is that you, Tracy? Okay, I don't know, Tracy.
It's on, but I gotta go.
Okay, so I'm just going to cover this really quickly. We got to address taunting, period, end of story. Doesn't matter how it happens, doesn't matter when it happens, we need to address it. And the replay will show even better. So he makes the shot, and then he goes and tells his opponent how great of a play that was. And the replay shows it very clearly.
You got a game that's highly contested. And you see what Baker's doing, he's like, look, I got this.
Let me see if I can get to the part where the replay. Okay. So he makes the shot. Now, we don't know what he said. And honestly, I don't care what he said. But the official's standing right there. So if he called him a name or used certain choice words, the official heard it. We cannot let that go. Because if we let that go, and now that player who he just said something to that was disrespectful, that player is now going to go to the other end and be like, oh, okay, he did that to me. It might get worse. Then we might have other situations. So don't let people like the commentator tell you, oh, there's emotion in the game and this, that, the other. Yeah, there's emotion in the game. What if he punched him as a result? Then they're going to look back and see, well, you didn't address when he said something to him earlier. Get the taunting, especially at our level. You can try to talk to him, but I'm going to tell you right now, if you don't get to him, if you don't have an opportunity to get to him, it can cause a lot of problems. Get to those situations because this is the kind of thing that happens if you don't get to this. Now, this is a state final game or third place game, but these two schools have faced in the postseason up at this point like 4 years in a row and either knocked each other out or had a situation. So now we have a situation where they have a foul or a held ball, and then they basically about to go at it. And if you saw, my big man looked like he was about to stomp old boy out. So we can't let that go. Now, the other thing I want you to know, even though the officials did a good job getting in between everybody, it is not your responsibility to get in between these players and hold everybody up. There's a liability issue. You want to have that conversation, we can have a deeper conversation. But your main thing is you do not want to get hurt. You do not want to be in the middle of something when something happens and then they swing and they hit you or they knock you over. And this is almost kind of what happened or could have happened to the individual in the situation. Okay. Okay, last play. And this is why we have to address these situations. I don't know what happened in this game, but look what happened. I don't know what happened before the result. Right here. Now we got chaos. So the other reason I'm also saying this too is because these two officials don't need to be in the middle trying to break it up. The coaches and adults on the team bench can come onto the floor and take care of this. They can grab their players. They can pull everybody off. Bench personnel that is like players or kids, like a scorekeeper kid, which happens in some parts of our state, if they come onto the floor, that's different. They are ejected. Now, I can get into that later, the whole what happens and how it happens. There's a formula for it. I don't want to get too deep into that. But my point is that this didn't probably just happen in this instant. There might have been something going on in this game. Because once this basket was made, this girl pushes her, kind of pushes her, and now we got a brawl. And now the other part of the problem is nowadays we won't just have the players and the benches come onto the floor. We'll let parents come on the floor. So you got to be real careful who you grab, who you hold. And another reason you don't want to grab and hold people, because what if I grab somebody and they punch them in the face? You're liable for that because you shouldn't. That's not our role. Let the adults or the personnel, the school, whoever get involved in those situations. You stay out of that. You might do like the one official did over here. Take some notes. He's sitting right here. He's probably looking back at the benches to make sure nobody comes off or see who came onto the floor. It looks like they did a pretty good job from the standpoint. It doesn't look like anybody extra came onto the floor. But if they do, we have to eject people. Get everybody to the benches and then have a discussion independent of everybody else, where it's just you three that you can discuss it. Do not let coaches or players or whatever get involved in that kind of discussion, because you might be talking about ejecting somebody you don't eject, and they heard you say, well, you should have ejected that player. Or this. No. Get everybody away, get away from the benches, and have a discussion about what you guys saw and try to construct it. Also, if you do have fights, this is a special report for the Illinois High School Association. And when that's a special report, you got to fill it out. I want to also emphasize this. This is not something the referee does alone. If the referee ejected these two players, he files or she files a report for those two players. If the U1 ejected 3 players, he's got to file or she's got to file a report for those 3 players. If the U2 didn't eject anybody, they don't have to file a report. The other thing you need to do is contact your assigner immediately and let them know that, by the way, we had a fight and this is who we ejected and this is what happened and blah, blah, blah. And maybe you might even have a whole discussion behind that. But the reason I'm mentioning this is because this is a legal document when you file a special report. Because also what's going to happen, the Illinois High School Association, Gary knows this, they're going to go look at the film and they're going to maybe make other determinations about if they saw other players or they saw a punch from somebody that should have been ejected. And they can issue more suspensions because they have oversight over that. But you do your role and fill out the proper paperwork. Do not put this on the referee who ejected nobody or didn't see anybody that did anything wrong. Because it's possible they didn't know anything. They don't know who came off the bench. They might not be able to decipher. So don't make them fill out the report. So that's kind of the unusual thing. So that's the last video of the night. I know we're going to have questions. Fire away.
Get your questions answered while you can.
I know. Let's go.
Hi, Jeff. This is Bill James. First off, I appreciate everything that you guys have done for us so far. So thank you. I just kind of wanted to touch base a little bit on one of your first videos of these odd situations was where you it was the one where the kid came out and boxed out the shooter on that free throw and there was a foul on him. I get that he displaced him, but I want to more so touch base on the fact that you said they're not allowed to cross the lane. Can you elaborate more on that? Because obviously every game that you know, on the second shot, who's got shooter? Who's got shooter? So obviously somebody's coming across to box out the shooter. So
let me clarify that. I didn't say they can't come across the lane. They can't come across the free throw line.
Perfect. Thank you.
If they come across the free throw line, they have technically violated, meaning the defense. And actually that's the one restrict because they can't leave until the ball hits the rim. But if they come across before the ball has touched the rim, like we showed, or the back